And welcome back to the Hot Lap. We're talking Flavio Briatore. Should he be in Formula One? Yeah, at least that's an interesting thing to talk about. And that's what Grand Prix 247.com, a website about Grand Prix racing F1 news, has talked about. And they may have got themselves in a tiny bit, I don't want to say hot water, because the whole thing's very interesting. They posted something about Flavio Briatore, almost calling him names, but backing it up with facts as well, which is quite interesting. And then Flavio Briatore's attorney, lawyer, has then come back to them. Yeah, it's getting all a bit tasty, but let's talk about it. And let's talk about Flavio Briatore. Should he really be back in F1? Does he deserve to be in F1? Should he even have been in F1 at all? So here's the original article. It says outside line F1's top. Indeed. Destroying Doohan in plain sight. Now let's make this, let's zoom in here. Yeah, it's destroying Doohan in plain sight. Here was the original one. As you can see, behind bars. But yeah, he's not behind bars now. I don't know if they used the changed the photos or anything on the original website, but there we go. That was the original post, which I thought was quite interesting. So let's get into it, shall we? It's about a 5-minute read. It's by a guy called Paul Velasco. So he's basically saying, and I second some of the opinions, albeit these are the opinions of Paul Velasco that I'm reading, but we're definitely going to be talking about it. So he's calling Flavio a disgrace to Formula One. Flavio Briatore is a bag of scum. He always has been and always will be. He said motorsport's greatest embarrassment was caused by him. A serial cheater, oh my gosh, a fraudster, and convicted criminal. Now, they appear to be fairly correct on that one. And I will tell him that face to face. I mean, it starts off very spicy, doesn't it? Absolutely. See how much we can zoom in. It goes, yes, somehow these days, in all spheres of life, those things now seem to enhance a CV. But that won't stop those of us who love Formula One from calling out severe injustice. Yeah, that's interesting. So particularly when no one else seems willing to do so. If the media in Japan are real journalists, they will surely take up this case, because what is happening right now at Alpine, because Flavio Briatore, let's be fair, he is in charge at Alpine. And he's questioning whether Oliver Oates is really the man in charge at Alpine. He said Oates may be the face of the team, but the 74-year-old Italian dinosaur is the heart and engine behind everything what happens and what doesn't. They did bring Flavio Briatore back, I think, last year to try and sort things out. And there's all these things that he wants Colapinto in, even though they signed a deal with Jack Doohan, who's doing okay. I don't think he's doing as bad as people make out. Then here we go. This has to do with Jack Doohan. He said his story is well known, and he's talking about the pressure on him has been relentless from the very first day Alpine announced they had secured the services of flavour of F1 2024, Franco Colapinto. And he was saying, handpicked by Briatore from Williams. It was a clear signal of intent. I mean, Flavio Briatore is not one to mince his drivers. If you remember, he stole, according to some, Michael Schumacher for the Jordan team in 1991. And hey presto, Belgium 91 he was for Jordan, and in the Italian Grand Prix he was there for Benetton. So Colapinto was installed as a reserve driver. Well, you pretty much all know this. And from that point on, everyone in the media has saying Doohan's days are numbered. Some people suggesting that he has a contract just for 6 races. And by all accounts, he's saying Briatore does not want him in that car. We're talking about Doohan. He wants Franco. Understood, point taken. But to go about it this way, to throw Doohan under the bus ahead of the most daunting Grand Prix on the calendar, is a disgraceful kick in the teeth to sportsmanship. Yeah, George Bianchi there. I think. Well, where's this going? He said this is Suzuka, the same circuit, obviously, where George Bianchi very sadly lost his life a decade ago. Let's not forget that motorsport is dangerous, motorsport is deadly. And here's the kicker then. He said, in Alpine's wisdom, they decided to give local hero Ryo Hirakawa a shot in the car for FP1. I'm absolutely fine for us. And he said, fine. And I kind of get his point here, but why sacrifice rookie Doohan? He needs every lap, every kilometre, every ounce of track time there is. Less so because his career is very much on the line, and he's talking, more importantly, his safety. Was it an April Fool's joke? No. And I kind of agree with him there. When you did see, obviously, Jack Doohan in practice, we saw his crash. He crashed at turn 1 with the DRS trying something. Now, there are people questioning, was he trying just that little bit too hard because he didn't have that practice one? And it would have made absolute sense for him to be replacing Gasly, because Gasly is a lot more confident in the car and knows Suzuka in a Formula 1 car a lot better. But then he's also saying, why should Doohan sit out FP1 no matter how much experience he has at Suzuka in the minor leagues? Formula 1 turns every circuit into an unforgiving beast. This place even more so. And I completely second that. I kind of agree. Now, he said if anyone should have stepped aside, we're just saying it was Pierre Gasly. We kind of agree. Let Doohan take FP1. I'll sit out for the Japanese rookie. Will it happen? He's saying Gasly probably should have stepped back as well. But this is a competition, isn't it? I mean, you're not going to give an advantage necessarily to your teammate if you can help it. But they said because what Alpine has done is a crime. To make a young driver sit out FP1 at Suzuka, it's irresponsible. It's the act of a bully. A bag of scum bully, and it will be criminal if fate gets nasty, as all the hallmarks of Briatore, and he will be accountable if, he said, God forbid, the 23-year-old hurts himself this weekend in Japan. And that's exactly what happened, I think, in practice too, wasn't it? This was written significantly before the first free practice session in Formula 1. He said, if it's not Briatore making these putrid calls, then I apologise. Putrid calls. Then it's on Oaks. And if not Oaks, then whoever inside Alpine made this decision, they are a disgrace. They know who they are. He said, FIA and Formula 1, wake up, Ben Sullivan and doing a car. Wow, he's launching. He said, if I were McDoohan, MotoGP legend, I'd pull my son out of that car immediately, 110%. Alpine is a complete, not very good show. But then does a father pull the plug on Jack's hard-earned dream? I mean, why would you? On all the work and effort that's gone into it. And he's talking about if Mohammed Ben Sulayem wants to do something useful. FIA stewards want to protect drivers and implement a rule rookies who have never raced at Suzuka or any track for that matter must do FP1. I mean, the issue there is, I think the issue for that is going to be other people are contracted and the team has to let their drivers out of a practice session to... It's in the F1 rules to allow a rookie in. Now, I'm assuming if it's, for example, you've got your rookies in, I mean, they each take turns. Hamilton did it, Russell did it, take turns. Both the Ferraris did it last year. Each of the team members take turns. So I think that one's not particularly that day. I can't see that one happening. But strategize what track, maybe, because Suzuka is quite a difficult track to learn, especially in that first sector. The first and second sectors are mighty. Doohan being destroyed in plain sight, one of the most treacherous F1 venues on the calendar, and that is unforgivable, he's saying. This post will be sent to Alpine for protocol's sake, as I care not what they have to say, but also the FIA and Formula 1 for comment. He said Stefano Bendicali cannot sit idly by. He knows Briatore. They're probably still on the speed dial, but if the former Ferrari boss cares about the sport, about driver safety and well-being, he must act. Yeah, I mean... I completely agree with him that Doohan has been put under unnecessary pressure. And just look at what's happened to Lawson with Red Bull. We all thought that was going to be Doohan first, but there we go. And he said, and if this issue doesn't explode in the paddock this weekend, I'll be shocked. If it does, I'll be proud of every colleague and journalist who wants the best for motorsport, because it will be a victory for sport and for Formula 1 and a fair deal for Doohan, and a defeat for a man whose morals belong in a sewer, and cheating is part of his DNA, it seems. He says, in closing, making Doohan sit out FP1 at Suzuka is a crime. In my book, Briatore, okay, and this is the thing, which is where it gets interesting. Briatore and his life of crime. Timeline key events in Flavio Briatore's criminal past. Controversies in Formula 1 career. So, late 70s, associates with businessman Mr. Duto involved in the, the company had links to the mafia, didn't it? And his boss, Duto, is killed in a car bombing. The company collapses. Briatore is later charged with fraudulent bankruptcy. In the early 1980s, he's convicted in Italy for fraudulent bankruptcy, sentenced to 4.5 years in prison. In 1986, he's convicted yet again for involvement in a fraudulent gambling ring, sentenced to 3 years. Oh my gosh. 1980s, flees to the Virgin Islands to avoid prison. Convictions later wiped by an Italian amnesty in 1989. So he ran away to avoid prison. Okay. 1989, becomes commercial director. Then team principal of Benetton F1. 94 to 95, he leads Benetton to two world F1 championships, Schumacher's first two, but the team's accused of cheating. Traction control software, illegal fuel rig. Yeah, they were. I don't think it was ever proven. In 97, he was ousted from Benetton following internal disagreements. In the 2000s, he returned triumphant as the principal of Renault F1, and then 05 and 06, he wins that championship with Alonso. 2007, Renault found guilty of technical espionage for the McLaren data, but not penalised. This is one I've always had a problem with. And I think that was 2008 rather than 2007, I think. But Renault definitely were found guilty of technical espionage, yet they didn't receive the same punishment as McLaren. That's not necessarily down to Briatore, that's down to Max Mosley, who absolutely didn't like Ron Dennis, who was at the time the head of McLaren. But let's talk about 2008 Singapore. The Singapore Grand Prix crashgate. Piquet crashes deliberately on team orders. And 2009, when Nelson Piquet basically gets sacked from the Renault team because, you know, that's a Briatore thing to do. He then spills the beans. I mean, why? Why sack him? You knew that was going to happen. Not that I'm obviously condoning, agreeing that they should have cheated. But then Briatore resigns. The FIA bans him for life for orchestrating crashgate, along with Pat Simmons. But then in 2010, the French court overturns the F1 ban, later settled to stay out of F1 until the end of 2012. Italian authorities seize, this ends up being a really long law case, his Force Blue yacht, which is over 3.6 million in tax fraud claims. Oh my gosh. 2011 to 2018, Briatore convicted of tax evasion. I think in relation to that yacht, the sentence reduced to 18 months. 2013, free to return to F1 roles, but he stays away. In 2016, publicly denies interest in returning. But 2020, his billionaire club in Sardinia is investigated as an outbreak hotspot. And we all know what happened in 2020. 2022, final acquittal in the Force Blue tax case if the conviction is overturned. So good for Briatore. 22-23, resurfaces in Formula 1 as an advisor to Alpine and F1 management. And 2024 makes Jack sit out FP1 at the Japanese Grand Prix. Very cross. Very cross here. But it hasn't ended here. This list hasn't ended here. Why? Because then there's this. Outside line. Just got an email from counsel for Mr. Flavio Briatore. Popcorn time. And here it is, and here is the full story. It goes, Sir, I'm counsel for Mr. Flavio Briatore. I've been informed that you published yesterday, both with a journalist and an editor-in-chief of the site, GrandPrix247.com, an article entitled Outside Line F1's Top Scumbag Destroying Doing in Plain Sight, with a photograph representing my client behind prison bars. This article published on your website is clearly intended to harm my client, and I think Briatore's done that himself really to his reputation, but never mind when you list, especially his early years, his reputation, and contains numerous insults and false, groundless and defamatory allegations anyone that uses pertaining really upsets me. Pertaining to my client's life and character. Now, accordingly, you are hereby put on notice to retract this article entirely by putting it offline without any delay. My client reserved the right to introduce any procedure against you. Yours sincerely. And this is the reply. I mean, this is just gold, isn't it? Dear counsel for Mr. Flavio Briatore, agreed the image of Mr. Flavio Briatore behind bars was tasteless and ambitious. It is a graphic photo montage, but to avoid any detraction from the key issue in the post, we agreed to remove the prison image. Okay. The truth is always paramount here. He said the issue must not be clouded. It's the grave neglect and undeniable injustice that Jack Doohan has been subject to by the Alpine F1 team, which by all accounts is led by Flavio Briatore or highly influenced by him in his capacity as executive advisor who hired the real team principal. Ollie Oakes. And with that said, and for the record, I think it's near criminal, unbelievably irresponsible and short-sighted by Formula 1, FIA, GPDA, Pierre Gasly, a close friend of George Bianchi, oh wow, that's savage, and the Alpine F1 team to find it okay that a rookie in Doohan's already dire situation be forced to sit out a much-needed FP1 session at Suzuka for the 25 Japanese Grand Prix. Unacceptable. Unacceptable, he says. And indeed, if you refer to the coverage of the weekend, thus far in Japan, other media outlets have questioned Alpine's choice to replace Ryo Hirakawa in Doohan's car. Not only us, he says, me being me, I have been more vocal than others because racing deaths have touched me personally too often, from too young in Formula 1 and other motorsport. Okay. He said, my worst fears were not realised today at Suzuka. Thankfully, Doohan is healthy despite the significant prang. And we also have modern safety standards in Formula 1 to thank for that. So this was written after the practice session. But the question remains, who made this decision within Alpine F1 to make Doohan sit out FP on? He or she, or they, are the culprits. And as I said, this is all to do with the hallmarks of a Briatore hand in the affair. And if it is not him, as executive advisor, he should fire the person who came up with the idea, let alone allow it to happen. That's my opinion. Please list the insults and falsehoods that distress Mr. Briatore. Nevertheless, in our constant quest for the truth, I'm keen for you to help me with the following, so as to proceed and correct wrongs, which is the purpose of his response. Please list the response you believe distressed Mr. Briatore. Please list the groundless and defamatory allegations that you believe damage your client. He said, we cannot retract the article as you commanded in your email. That's not how we work. Instead, in the name of truth, we will redact and even issue an apology, oh wow, when you provide the above mentioned lists. Please help correct the falsehoods at your earliest convenience. Now, while you're at it, please check for anything that may offend Mr. Briatore. My follow-up opinion piece written after Doohan nearly hurt himself at Suzuka today. Any falsehoods in this report, if so, point them out. He said, in closing, as the crux of this issue was Doohan's safety in the wake of no track time on a deadly venue. His forced absence from FP1 remains a crime by Alpine in my book. If I'm wrong, I need to be corrected. Please do so. And in closing, for you to consider, I suggest a solution to correct my apparent misconceptions and make the right distress cause. I am more than happy to do a live or recorded, unedited discussion on the matter, wow, with Mr. Briatore for our Two Soft Compounds podcast. Oh my gosh. Or on the Alpine F1 team, aka Twitter account for any of your social media accounts. Let's set the record straight together, please. ASAP. Wow. I mean, yeah. And the things he said about Briatore. I mean, this is obviously AI Google in the late 70s. Briatore did indeed associate with Mr. Duto. He was indeed killed in a car bombing, and he was later charged with fraudulent bankruptcy. Let me just zoom in there. Yeah. Also, confirm I'm not a robot. Okay, well, thank you very much. I'm not a robot. Apparently this will only take a few seconds. Okay, never mind. But when you're in the links in the description below, I have obviously, well, fact check in terms of like just Googling it, and all the things that they've put in the outside line here, the list, this list here that they've put is absolutely 110% correct. Well, 100% correct. It's all true. And he's even posted the acquittal. So, what it boils down to, obviously, he's got an issue. This with Flavio, he's got an issue, understandably, with Flavio Briatore, and I kind of agree. I mean, when you look at the list of it, and he's been done, a potential fraudster. He's done time. It says here in prison, was sentenced to spend years in prison. He then ran off, became a wanted criminal until he was, for a few years. Would you want someone like that in Formula One? Probably not, if I'm honest. Someone that is his integrity is very questionable. So would we want outside? Shameful of F1. Watch a scumbag helping destroy Doohan. That he's really gone for it. I'm astounded after witnessing Jack doing crash at free practice too. The writing was on the wall. I wrote about it. I was ignored. That was then. Now I'm seething. I'm beyond angry, but I'm relieved that Doohan is uninjured, albeit highly shaken, after one of the most preventable incidents that struck a nail. Why? Simply because the people that run Alpine have decreed he is not good enough, even before he's had a proper chance. Yeah. Or because they have a young... I don't think Franco Colapinto is as good as everyone says he is at the moment. Very good. He troubled Alexander Albon. That's something Carlos Sainz has not managed to do. So there's potentially a lot of talent there. But then he just went on a series of crashes and he became Logan Sargent for a while. But the talent is really, really there. But I think they're over... I mean, he wasn't particularly talented on the way up. Williams just had him there and okay... Come in, Franco Colapinto, and he was very, he was solid. He was really good, and then he just crashed a lot. Anyway, the article then says, I take no pride, disgust actually in pointing out that I told the story here. I warned the FIA in Formula One. I neglected to include the GPDA and George Russell in that warning. Shame on me, because they too have a huge indelible stain on their conscience for allowing their colleagues to go out without an FP. Wow, I mean... This guy, do they not remember that Suzuka is the grave of the last form? Oh my gosh, what is going on? Are we in some comfort zone of perceived safety in Formula One? Or you think morality has disappeared from the sport? Absolutely not. The crashes we see today have killed many. Yeah, that is true. The halo saved lives. The cockpit has saved... the cockpit, well, it's like a cockpit, isn't it? The chassis even has saved life, but motorsport remains dangerous. Yes, it does. Motorsport is still deadly. Yes, it is. And drivers will die racing. Thankfully, less. I mean, the minute you start going over 100 miles per hour, you can make things very safe, but you can never make things 100% safe. I mean, for example, when we go back in 2009, who would have thought that, the brake or something, falling off Rubens Barrichello's car and hitting Felipe Massa in the face. Potentially not even a halo may have not saved that. Formula One and the FIA should make FP1 mandatory for rookies immediately. Yeah, we've talked about that. I completely get it. I don't know if it's going to happen. Doohan deserved better. He deserved FP1 for his own good and the team's own good. I don't care what excuse the Alpine team have. Fire him before or after, but don't castrate him. Furthermore, fast asleep to anything that's not making tons of money. Formula 1 and the FIA should make amends for this mess up. Immediately writing, yeah, okay, but a rule must be implemented with immediate effect, especially in this era. Why was Pierre Gasly silent, he says. Why do they even need to run marketing over safety seriously? Well, I mean, there is that rule about running rookies. It's meant to, and the bag of scum in chief at Alpine is Flavio Briatore. Until I'm told otherwise, I believe he runs the show. He calls the shots, and therefore it's on him. If it is not on him, then he should know better and not condone his crime. The only delight I take from this is that the team will have to pay for the damage caused by their stupidity. Oh wow, karma is a dog, a female dog apparently, and after Briatore will always be a target for its wrath and for all the malice he has created in his life and in our sport. It's like making AI Capone a bank manager. So I say to the FIA and F1, to the GPDA, hang your heads in shame. You've all contributed to and perpetrated inadvertently or not what I believe is the planned destruction of Doohan to get Colapinto in the Alpine. This is about the safety of every single Formula 1 driver. Ben Sullivan, where are you when your sons need protection? Likes to brag how he's a racer. I don't donut. But then the chief of this sport should know better. He's blaming everyone. That the FP1 session denied has already come back to haunt us. I mean, that crash was horrible, wasn't it? To those of you think this is just an angry trade against Briatore, it's not. In fact, when he was brought in to bail Luca De Meo's destruction of Renault F1 team, I thought it was a good idea. Generally couldn't think of anyone better. I could. But now that the dust has settled and the honeymoon is over, you know what? The guy hasn't changed. He's exactly the same. Weren't Alpine under scrutiny for doing something illegal within months of its return, or suddenly running a dodgy car last weekend in China? You could say this is all a coincidence, but there are just too many coincidences. Why is Briatore even allowed near an F1 track? Yeah, it's crimes and previous. Be warned, I'm very selective in omitting a can of worms I have no desire to explode. The cheating allegations, back to the Benetton days, were when they did. I mean, with the illegal traction control with Benetton, yeah. The thing with the illegal traction control was, in 1993, they had all the, like Williams, they had active suspension, they had traction control, they had all the gizmos to make a car easier, more manageable to drive, let's say. But, and here's the thing, but in 94, on the steering wheel, they still had the option. I forgot one option, whatever, for the traction control. But then it was a case of prove we can use it. Ayrton Senna was absolutely convinced that they were using it because of the traction that Michael Schumacher could get out in the corners, and you know, Senna was free sample just in Brazil, following Schumacher, and he ended up spinning out the race trying to keep up with Michael Schumacher. Now the issue, playing devil's advocate, the Williams was the best of all these devices, active suspension, etc., you know, with their traction control, and the car, the 94 car, was designed around that. So taking it away, not at the last minute, but not at the last minute, but nearly at the last minute, would have been a massive issue for the Williams team. The car was a bit of a pig to handle at the beginning of the season. So it's interesting, isn't it? And then obviously the fueling thing, the fuel, when you used to fuel a pit stop, there was a set amount that the fuel, of amount the fuel would go through, so to make all the pit stop even. But then apparently Benetton were allegedly fiddled with the fuel caps, whether to make their pit stops quicker. And that's when he said, Formula cheating allegations when they ran illegal traction control software. I mean, the software was there. It was proved we're running it. And then when they nearly killed Jos Verstappen when cheating the fuel nozzle on the rigs, yes, of that massive fire in 1994. Alcon, we are lucky we are lucky Max is even around. Yeah. And then he's got commanding Nelson Piquet Jr. We've talked about this, to crash his car so Renault could win with Alonso, predetermined by Briatore and fellow scoundrel Matt Simmons, who was also floating around the piranha sewer. That is the modern F1 paddock. Those F1 crimes are bad enough. And he's talking about whether Formula 1 then did due diligence on Flavio Briatore. How does anyone really get to know who this man is. A quick Google search is a good start, or better yet, ChatGPT of any of the AI aggregators out there. Try deep search option, do English and Italian sources, it's dark. He said, in closing, back to doing in Suzuka. Call me morbid, a misguided prophet of doom, but my inner voice keeps saying never forget Jules Bianchi. Footnote, if any of the aforementioned want to reach out about this matter, you have my number. Okay, cool. So yeah, I mean, wow, that's quite the piece, isn't it? From Grand Prix 24/7, brilliant. It's really interesting. I mean, brilliant. I think it's really, really brilliant. They really pull Velasco, absolutely goes to town on Flavio. Like I've never seen a tirade like that before. In short, I don't think Flavio should have ever come back to Formula One after the 2008 Singapore crashgate. Simply because when you look at his past, yes, someone can change, but then that happened in the 80s when he was a bit, when he was naughty, and then in 2008. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. There we go. If you made it to the end of this rant, I don't really know, was it a rant? I'm not sure. But anyway, if you made it to the end and you're not subscribed, please give us a subscribe. That would be absolutely amazing. I've gone on now for 25 minutes thanks to this article, but there we go. So if you made it to the end, hit that subscribe button. If you are already subscribed, but you want to help a bit more, click the like button. Comment below, let us know. But just you clicking on this and even making it to the end of this massive 20, nearly, just shy of half an hour is more than enough for us. So thank you so much. Speak to you soon. And I'm recording this just before about 6, 7 hours before the start of the Japanese Grand Prix. Anyway, thank you for watching. Speak to you soon, but above all else, stay safe.